Hello, and welcome back. It is that time again. Periodically, I like to ask my viewers for their spicy hot takes about writing, reading, all of that good stuff. I think it's mostly reading related. I think I kind of asked them, like, what stuff are you sick of seeing in books? And they provided with their spicy hot takes, some of which I might agree with and some of which I definitely don't. So let's go and see how many of my viewers I can get mad at me. And then they can hate watch. What fun for them. Our first potentially spicy opinion goeth thusly. Don't mind me looking over here. That's where my tablet is. I'm asking my tablet to do two things at once, i.e. record my voice and show me the comments, so hopefully it will not light on fire and explode. This person says, maybe it's a me thing, but possessive male leads tend to creep me out. Mostly because when I'm seeing that sort of relationship play out and stuff, my mind tends to think that the relationship is likely going to break shortly after the novel ends. I mean, possessiveness from any partner is usually a bad sign. Like, you know, a little bit of possessiveness can be cute. Like, oh, there's my boo, you know, like mine. That's my person. But too much possessiveness, like you see in a lot of these books, especially from these male characters who are like grabbing the teeny tiny little woman and growling mine. Now I agree with you there, commenter, that's not sexy. Spoilers, I'm going to agree with this comment, and it does not surprise me that it's coming from one of my viewers, considering the stuff we talk about on my channel. This person says, I really hate the big, violent, scary, generic hot dude being possessively in love with the tiny, cute, childish, but yet sexy, fake, tough, special girl trope. Yeah, I mean, on my channel, yeah, I feel like we're all sick of that. We are so sick of that. Please do anything else. There are so many other things that you could do. Do these people writing these books like this realize that? Do they know? Has anyone told them that there are other kinds of men, women, and relationship dynamics? Anyway, they also say, I also hate smut pretending to be romance. I really like romance in my adventure stories, but real romance is about characters and emotions. Constantly horny isn't doing it for me. I also loathe the fake representation thing that seems to be so popular. Far too few dare to write a main character belonging to a minority group. I mean, yeah, preaching to the choir here. I'm sure some of my viewers won't agree, but it's like, it's not hard. Here's just a little secret. It's not hard to write like outside of your own experiences sometimes. Like, yeah, you have to be careful with some things. Like, I would be extremely careful writing a black main character, for example, because that's very outside of my experience. But I am asexual, and I write about allosexual sometimes. So I kind of have to write outside my experience sometimes, and it's not actually that hard. Writing gay characters, writing ace characters if you're not ace, writing a disabled character if you're not disabled. Just do some frickin' research, it's not that hard. There are blogs all over the place to tell you how to sensitively write a person who is not the same as you. Just find them. I will say, though, that you don't necessarily need romance, and I don't think that this person was saying this, but I'm gonna segue off here. You don't necessarily need romance in a story to have two or more characters, really bonding in an emotional and meaningful way. May I just casually present you with my book, Adventurer Mage, the sequel to which I am still working on presently, where we have two lead characters who go on to form a very powerful relationship that is not romantic, but I wanted to just kind of prove that you can have all of the feels that people so desperately want from a romance, but you don't need to have the romantic side of it, and you could still have two people who would like die for each other, but just platonic soulmates. This person did write a fairly long comment, so keep going. I'm easily distracted, all right? They say, I realize I'm coming off as whiny and aggressive. Not really. I mean, this is supposed to be like spicy opinions, so we can let it all out here. But it's so frustrating that the genres I love have been hijacked by these writers and the publishing industry that only pander to one type of reader. Yeah, I mean, I try not to be too annoyed because, you know, different strokes for different folks. Everybody likes different things. But as an ace person, pretty much everything I read is going to have some kind of romance, whether I like it or not. And now what's popular is like just smutty romance is really popular right now. And I try not to be mad about it because, yay, somebody's getting the kind of books that they like. But it sucks that the kind of books that I like just really are not like highlighted. They're not the mainstream. Obviously, the kind of books that I like still definitely exist outside of the mainstream, and we need to remember to go outside of the mainstream to find those things. But as this person pointed out in their comment, I didn't read their whole comment because it was quite long. They pointed out that they get a lot of their books from the library, which same, and so like buying books is sometimes off the table for people, so they are kind of left with what's in the library. Instead of being able to seek out indie authors like myself who are writing weird books, different books, books that are not the super hyper popular thing right now, our books aren't often in the libraries, and so it can be challenging. So I'm right there with you, all right? So big agree with that one, but let's see if some other people can make me disagree with them here. This person says, something that grinds my gears as I'm heading into spooky season. You can tell how long ago I posted this. Listen, I have a lot of things going on, all right? But I will get to these. If you ever comment on these and you're like, when's the video coming out, Julian? I'll get to it. Something that grinds my gears as I'm headed into spooky season is the ghost/monster story where the twist is, oh, they actually didn't kill it. It's so strong that it transferred to another host and it continues. It cheapens the victory the characters just achieved. It also feels like a cheap excuse for an even worse sequel with a less deep plot. I also agree with this one. I prefer when a ghost haunting, whatever, can be solved and resolved within the story. I do think that it feels very cheap when it just goes, haha, the heroes have won the day, but actually no, they didn't, because some factor that they didn't know about just came up and says the ghost gets to keep going. Like the hand of God reaches down and is like, nope, you didn't win, actually, the ghost gets to keep going. So yeah, I agree with you there. That's also my personal taste, is I prefer when we can actually resolve the haunting, however we need to do that. This person says, it sucks that most writers feel like there has to be a romance or a hookup or people won't read. Yeah, it hurts my heart. I mean, I understand you like what you like, but it hurts my heart when people tell me they won't even try my books if they find out that there's not a romance in it. I see this a lot in thrillers and mysteries, probably because that's what I've been reading. Like the single FMC changes her location some way, goes back home, travels on vacation, etc. And you can bet that the first or second guy she meets is the one. Can't it be a friendship or even a story about an FMC finding herself? No romance needed? I mean, I wish, although in thrillers, the romantic interest does usually turn out to be a villain. So that's one of the tropes that I have mentioned. I did a trope video. I think I might have 2 videos talking about tropes I don't like in thrillers. This person says they're sick of the edgy shadow boo, super strong, near invincible heroine everyone wants, and love triangles when it's so obvious who she'll end up with. Yeah, I mean, like, I know for a while it was like the thing to hate on love triangles, but really, like, I don't mind them if the author can actually manage to make it seem like both of the guys have a chance. I am talking about the classic meaning of love triangles with one person and then 2 other people trying to get with that one person, even though that would technically be like a love spear point? I don't know. Anyway, that's what I mean when I say love triangles. That's what most of us mean when we say love triangles. And it would be a lot better if it was believable that like both had a chance, but it very seldom is. You can always tell who the author picked, who the author likes best, and that's the one that's going to get the super duper special awesome main character girl. This person says, the emphasized size difference between the MC and the love interest. At some point, it just feels infantilizing for the female character, which gives me the ick. Yeah, I agree. All of these, like, I swear they're getting smaller somehow. All of these main characters are just these teeny tiny itty bitty little babies, and the men are just these enormous giants who you wonder how they function in life without hitting their head every 10 seconds on doorways. Like, it's not fun to be super tall from what I've heard. The smallness of the woman constantly being brought up and brought up and brought up, it's infantilizing. Also, where are my short kings? Where are my short kings? By the way, I am writing a fantasy book. I'm drafting it right now where the main character woman is tall and her romantic interest is shorter than her. He's badass and awesome and I love him, but he's a short king and we love to see it, right? You can tell that these are my viewers because many of the answers are the very things that we have been railing against on this channel. So It tracks. If you've come to this channel, you're probably frustrated by these same things. This person says, I would totally be fine if I never encounter a romance plot ever again. Some of them are cute. Most of them are tired. Signed an Arrow Ace who doesn't understand romantic feelings on a fundamental level. Oh, yes. I mean, I am not a romantic, but as an asexual, whenever books are trying to be like, he was so sexy, she was so sexy, I'm just like, miss me with that. It's like, I don't get it and I never will. What is that like? Can't relate. This person says that they are sick of enemies to lovers. I kind of agree. I used to like enemies to lovers, and all of these awful books are ruining it for me. They agree. Lie. I really like it, but that's why it hurts me to see it get butchered for the sake of adding tropes. Can we please get the good old days of actually making the story feel cohesive? This also goes for knife to the throat, ballroom scenes, one bed trope, who did this to you, and practically every popular trope on Book Talk. I'm not saying that I hate them. I read them and I write them myself, but it's all too cliche and overdone. Agree. We need variety. There needs to be more calm, gentle, sweet love interests. Oh yes, very much agree. Who don't have an instant nickname for the main character instead of the same guy TM in different fonts. Or different prints, I would also say different fonts. I also hate how everything is for instant gratification. Nothing takes time to build up gradually. No one is patient anymore. I wish authors would learn they need to make the reader work for some kind of development, and you can't just give it to us so easily. We love adversity, and it only endears the protagonist to us. Couldn't have said it better myself. Protagonists are not having to struggle anymore, and it's disappointing. Because, like, I guess we just want to give the readers the feeling of success immediately. But those scenes mean so much more if the character has to work for them. This person says this will get them to DNF lately. When a book brings up the stakes of the plot point for the first time right before that plot point is happening. Example, the Prince MC thinks to themselves that the magic is forbidden for a royal to have as they're charging into the final battle they can't possibly win, and whips out a power to save the day. Powers that are never established or even mentioned until a paragraph before they happen. Yep, we talked about that a little bit with the build-up. We need build-up and payoff. The build-up has to happen way before the payoff. I swear part of the problem, and I don't know this for sure, is that these authors are coming up with it on the fly and then not going back and like seeding it into the earlier part of the story, which they need to. When you come up with a new plot point later in the book, it's okay. In fact, it's recommended to go seed some clues for that earlier in the book. Next, I have romance interests who are rude to service industry people. Well, that's just anybody in my life really is rude to service industry people. They're not my friends anymore. This includes fantasy characters who are rude to their royal staff. The MC might forgive you instantly because of your tragic past for yelling at a waiter, but I sure as hell don't. And finally, MCs who ignore the friends they have or even only use them when the plot requires. I feel like it's always a missed opportunity to develop both the friends and the MC. You learn so much about a person from who their friends are. Totally agree. And this person says, girl bosses who are bratty, self-centered, but the book doesn't acknowledge that as a flaw and instead insists they have no flaws, so they never grow or change because women should never apologize or some such nonsense. I mean, yeah, we're kind of getting sick of all of these same, like, just as the guys are the same in a lot of these, especially like these romantasy books that I've been reading for read-alongs. Like, girls are the same too. It's just the same two characters wearing different hats. Two stories with an entire cast of characters who all just suck. It's been a huge growing trend, at least in movies and shows lately, and I hate it. I want someone who is actually kind and good and I can enjoy rooting for. I don't want to spend hours and hours with characters who are annoying, rude, selfish people. I mean, I'm just gonna put this on your screen for a minute. Pretty much everybody in this, good people. I mean, Princess Joanna can be a little bit much, but she does kind of learn. She's on an arc. She's on a lesson. She is a little bit of a lot as a person. But, like, the cat is great. And Levi. Levi is the most precious cinnamon bun on the planet. Protect with your whole being. So, just gonna leave that there. This person is also sick of smut in general, or general romances that are focused on the sexual stuff, where there's little or no emotional development between the characters and their relationship. This comment is very long, so I'm just going to kind of summarize. Like, it's easier to get away with that in a shorter form, but when you have a whole book, you've got the space. It doesn't need to be just like sexual attraction and nothing else. But here's where we get the spiciest, probably in my most controversial take that people might hate me for, but I'm honestly just really tired of every female character in romance novels being super feminist and their love interest worshiping at their feet. Well, I hate to tell you this, but they're not super feminist. They're caricature of what some people think feminism is, but they're not super feminist. Yeah, in fact, they're kind of the opposite of what feminism actually is, which is unfortunate that so many people, especially these young writers, think that that's what feminism is, because it's not. By the way, this is a feminist channel, and if that bothers you, you can leave. Anyway, I can't tell how many books have been ruined for me by a female character doing a ton of crappy things and the author never acknowledging it, and somehow the main character still ends up being the one who has to do the big grand gesture groveling apology at the end. Well, I mean, that's the fantasy. Like, that's not feminism, that's the author's fantasy. They want to be able to behave however they feel like, and they want a man to come groveling to them at the end. Yeah, not feminism, just a weird fantasy that some people have. Not one that I have, but I mean, I guess. People have weird fantasies about stuff. I don't know. Allosexuals, are you okay? And another controversial one, I'm tired of romance books always being extremely left-leaning politically. I understand people's values and politics are going to seep into their writing, but as a more politically/socially conservative person, I am just a little tired of never seeing characters who seem to share my core values. I don't know what the core values are that you're looking for. If you care to elaborate in the comments below, I don't know. When I hear like conservative, to me that just means boring. But feel free to elaborate and tell me like what I'm missing out on by not reading more like conservative books. I'm not 100% sure what you're meaning. Is it the existence of queer characters? Because I can't agree with you there. I feel like they should exist in books. I don't know that that's what you're saying, but like I'm trying to think about like what conservative values means, and I'm just, aside from like not being as smutty, but you're at the right channel for that because my viewers are clearly sick of it as well. But other than that, they say as things become more and more politically divisive, it's becoming harder and harder for me to find characters to connect with. Well, we all know that this is not a very political channel, like outwardly, but if you haven't figured out where I stand politically, I wonder if you're paying any attention on this channel. Obviously, you're welcome here if you're more conservative. You want to, hang out, vibe. That's fine. We're definitely a safe place if you're not into smut, because I have a lot of ace viewers who really just are sick of it, and so am I, so like we're safe for that. But otherwise, we're keeping it queer. We're keeping it sex before marriage. Like, I'm ace, but I'm in favor of sex before marriage, so yeah. I'm not gonna go too far into this because like I said, I don't like to just like tell people my political values. I just like let people figure it out and show themselves the door if they don't like what they hear. But yes, if anybody here is like feeling shocked to find out that I'm a feminist, I don't think you've been paying very close attention to this channel. But hey, if this person would like to come and elaborate more on like what they're actually looking for in books in the comments below, totally welcome to do so. I would love to hear like what sort of values are you hoping to see more of in your books. You probably won't, I'm guessing, find them in mine, but I mean this is pretty harmless, I'll be honest. There's no swearing in it even. Like, I'm just saying. This one I would recommend. Like, yes, you can read it and enjoy it as an adult, but this would be a great one as an alternative to like reading Harry Potter with your family. Read this to your kids. All right, I swear I did not do this just to advertise my books. They're literally just sitting here and I keep looking over at them and being like, Anyway, on to the next. This one is also sick of the strong heroine plus broody shadow daddy romances. I'm writing as fast as I can, you guys. The romance in my next fantasy book is going to be very different from what is like big and popular right now. This person says, I hope that more books will have a comic book manga version as much as an animated adaptation. Okay, so this isn't really necessarily a spicy take, it's more just like a hope, a dream for books. I personally struggle with like comics and manga, so like that's not a dream of mine. You add pictures and words together and my brain is like, I can focus on one or the other, but not both. So kind of a waste for me personally, but I think it'd be cool. Especially the books that kids and teenagers love, they could have their comic book versions. I mean, that is one way that a lot of young people do get into reading, and I'm totally there for graphic novels being like a majority of what young people read. Like my nibblings kind of got into reading through graphic novels and they still love graphic novels. So yeah, it's a really great way for kids to like both as a gateway into reading and just reading in general, because I don't know if you know this, but there are words in them, so the kids are reading. They continue. I know it's not related to what I said earlier, but what I discovered before writing this comment is that Meglatar removed or privated her entire videos on her channel, and doesn't have a banner or profile photos. I wonder what happened to her and why. I guess she's kind of decided to step away. And my guess is that she just decided to step away from YouTube and writing, which is fine. You can make decisions like that for your life. If something is not bringing you joy, leave. That's like my number one motto as I've gotten older. Does it bring me joy? No, I'm not doing it. Simple as that. It's very freeing. I recommend it. But I'm guessing that that's what happened, is she just wasn't getting fulfillment, wasn't getting joy out of that world anymore, and she stepped away from it, and, you know, good for her. This person says, when some psychopathic toxic behavior is considered hot, when the love interest or the MC do it, but may be considered monstrous when someone else does it. Basically, double standards and normalizing toxic behavior in one. Yep, that's basically the MO for all of these identical hot boys. This person says, I have a visceral negative reaction to the word retelling. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't. I'll just put this down here now. Ignore the retelling. Even for books that I love and would read again that would qualify, that descriptor makes me cringe. I wish they had gone further in depth on that. Please feel free to elaborate in the comments below this one if you're watching this. Like, why? Why do the thoughts of something called a retelling make you cringe? Is it because we went through a retelling phase very, very recently where like everything was a retelling? And I got excited because I do have one of those. And I didn't sell any more books than I normally do, but I briefly had hope. So maybe it was just one of those things where it was like really popular there for a hot minute and you just got oversaturated by the word retelling. But do elaborate in the comments, please. This person says, MCs who are doormats is probably a trope I hate most, especially if it's the female main character. I love enemies to lovers is my favorite trope, but I can't tolerate if the MC is weak and submissive while the ally treats her terribly. I want an MC who stands up for themselves and can take care of themselves. I mean, yes, I don't like a female main character or any main character who allows themselves to be treated badly, especially if they think it's sexy for some reason. That's a little extra distressing. Also, I've mentioned before this, I believe, but fake romance, aka it's erotica and the attraction is purely physical, but it gets marked as romance, is very deceiving and obnoxious. Yeah, I mean, not everybody who reads a romance is going into it for the sexual stuff. Some people who read romance still like Fade to Black, and I wish that it wasn't like mingling so much, so just so they know, like when they want to read a book, like whether they're gonna be able to enjoy it or whether it's just gonna be swimming in sex scenes, you know? Like, everything should be well labeled, in my opinion. Label things well, so we know what we're getting. This person says, giving a character a disability that should be a hindrance and it never is. Yeah, I agree with that one. That's one of the reasons that I didn't like Six of Crows. Kaz's disability is only inconvenient when it serves the plot, and sometimes it's super not inconvenient. Remember, just in general, if you're writing a disabled character, they're disabled all the time, not just when you need it for the plot. They don't like it when it is only for very specific moments when it doesn't actually matter, like climbing some stairs and struggling just so the hot love interest can come along and help them. I'm getting Violet from Fourth Wing vibes here. If you give someone a disability, is with them all the time. Yep. Agree. I should have just kept reading this comment. Even if it makes things difficult, especially if it makes things difficult. Yet so often it just magically disappears when it becomes an inconvenience. I want the author to commit or take it out completely. It isn't representation if there aren't any acknowledged downsides. And I agree. Some people have argued that disabled people should be allowed to have a fantasy of like having the disability but still being able to do everything, kind of a vibe, but then it feels like they don't actually really have the disability. Like, and it can lean into the toxic side of things if much of the story is about overcoming their disability, because there's a lot of toxic notion that disabled people should just work hard until they're not disabled anymore, or somehow magically can just work past their disability. So it's a very tricky road to walk if you want to have a sort of fantasized disabled character who is able to like Violet, again, I'm just thinking Violet from Fourth Wing. Just work hard and overcome your disability, silly. Then we have 1. Sympathetic villains. Sometimes I want the avatar of ultimate evil to be a challenge for the heroes. Yes, well-written villains would often believe themselves to be the good guys, but on the other hand, we have characters like Sauron or Azula. Their deeds are never justified, and I love them for it. Not every villain needs to be a dreamer hurt by society. I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels that way about Azula. So many people want to be like, I can fix her, or like, she deserves a redemption arc too, and I don't agree. I think that she is probably clinically a psychopath, and a redemption arc like is never going to work out for her, or it shouldn't, the way that she's written. Yeah, so I agree. Not every single villain needs to be like deep. I'm not one of those people who demands like redemption arcs for all my villains or anything like that. It's whatever the story needs. If your story needs a villain to be like inscrutable evil, then give your story that. If your story needs a villain to be someone you can understand, then give your story that. Different kinds of villains for different reasons. Then they say, useless men. This one hits for personal reasons. Are you a useless man? Sorry, I couldn't resist. This one hits for personal reasons. I'm a big nerd for all things occult and magical. I've noticed a trend over here in my local corner of the literary world that men in fiction, particularly urban fantasy, tend to either be villains, hopelessly in love with the protagonist, or inferior to women when it comes to practicing magic. And I notice those parallels I can't read. I noticed those parallels internationally in Mercy Thompson, Anita Blake, Isla Crown, Zaid from Handbook for Mortals. By the way, I totally recommend that absolutely terrible piece of writing. So eventually maybe we'll get to Handbook for Mortals, but I've had it in a couple of polls for what we should read next, and it has never won, so I kind of just took it out of the running. But I can kind of see, like, a little bit, to counter your point a little bit, in especially like urban fantasy and when it comes to magic, women might just be better at magic. I'm just gonna say it. It's my channel, so I can say things that will make people angry, but I don't have as much of a problem with women being better at magic than men. Like, I would prefer in a story, generally, if the characters were characters, so anybody, man, woman, non-binary, anybody could like be better at something than somebody else. Anybody could be stronger, weaker, whatever, because they're characters first, they're people first. But at the same time, I really don't have a problem with like the women being stronger at magic, because I kind of think that that's true. But I mean, if you're sick of seeing it in books, you're sick of seeing it in books. So I understand. This is our spicy hot takes, man. We can have our feelings are out in the open here. This person says, I don't read books anymore. That's sad. Though I like to watch stuff like this and still have trope opinions. I mean, if you're not reading books, but you do want to hear somebody ramble about them, this is the place to be. This one says, the orphan protagonist. Yeah, there's understandable reasons why it's used, but I find it so overused. When I see a main character, I can accurately say, yep, you're an orphan. There are other ways you can get the parents to be unable to stop a 10-year-old chosen one from going into the dangerous adventure besides killing them off. Let the parents come sometimes is what I say. I've read a few books where the parents like get to participate, and I really liked it. So consider that, because children, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, their parents are important parts of their lives, and it would make sense to have the parents like be able to come and join in the adventure. Also, the mentor is going to die. Again, I felt like there are other things besides death that can make the mentor unable to bail out the main character. Yeah, I've said it before and I say it again. Mentors don't need to die. Adults need mentors too. Like, you never really stop needing your mentor. No matter how old you get. you never stop needing your mentor. Their relationship changes over time, but there's this idea that you reach a certain point in your like growth and you don't need a mentor anymore, and I don't think that that's true. So I'm with you there. I want to see more mentors surviving these stories. This person says, the thing I've decided to call trope hopping. The plot does not cohere to a story and hops from trope scene to trope scene with little more than vibes in between. Yeah, I mean, that was all of Powerless. Girl hate / girl bullies who are only there to make the strong, not like other girls' main character, appear to be the underdog by comparison. Yep, we hate to see it. Looking at you, Jenna Moreci. And again, we have characters being able to be the moral authority of the story and do bad things because they are like the main character, and other characters, if other characters did those same bad things, they would be punished. This person says, so I haven't seen an uptick of this, but I hate reading books that heavily feature children or pets, unless it's middle grade because they are children. Specifically, if a romance meet cute is facilitated by a child or a pet. Not sure why it bugs me, but it just does. I'm not a huge fan of that specifically either. Meet cutes facilitated by children or pets. Feels like you're involving like someone who cannot consent into your romance somehow. At least that's me, anyway. This person just says, I despise power / revenge fantasies. I kind of get you, because, like, you'd think that now we've learned so much about me, like, that I'm a feminist, that I would love the good for her trope, you know, the feminine rage trope. And I actually don't. And I don't really completely understand why. It really depends, though. There's some revenge fantasy stories that I can't enjoy. This one says, I'm missing authors with a distinct style of prose. There is a genericness to a lot of writing these days. Yes, it's still alive and well in literary fiction, but I don't always want to read lit fic. Where are the sharp and daring pulp writers? I'm there with you. We really are kind of smoothing off the edges of writing. I say as somebody who has like a style that I would consider very modern and readable. But at the same time, not everybody has to sound like that. Like, that's kind of just the style that I ended up with and where I found my happy place. But I do feel like we are really sanding off the edges of all writing styles to make everything very homogenous. And I low-key blame fan fiction, because a lot of writers right now are coming up from fan fiction, which is fine and great and amazing. But the fan fiction style is very mainstream, is very easy, is very non-threatening. Yeah, it's a little boring sometimes, I agree, as a reader. This one says, characters that lack depth or thoughtful characterization, like they're tools to be used by the writer or something, not genuine people. Does that make sense? Yes, it totally does. See Jenna Moreci's books. I also might be hung up on the current trend of TikTok popular books, the ones I see at Walmart or Target, because that's the only bookstores I have. There's no variety anymore. Yeah, I try not to look. When I go past the Walmart or Target book section, I don't look at it because it hurts my brain and my heart a little bit. Sure, you can shop online, but being a millennial, I miss being able to spend hours browsing through an actual store. Yeah, it really sucks if you don't have like a small local bookstore near you. It's painful. It's sad. There's one back in my hometown, but there's not one here where I am now, and it's sad. This person says, I don't know what to call it, a trend, vibes, or whatever else, but I hate that everything is sexual nowadays. I mean, yeah, you're one of my viewers, and we're all just kind of sick of it here. Even if I don't see sex scenes in books and TV shows and movies, I still see characters that have so little clothing. Looks like they want to say to the other character and the readers and watchers that they're potential sex dolls or anything like that. I mean, I guess. I don't know what TV shows you're watching, but maybe avoid those TV shows. I don't know about in books. Like, in books, we're barely getting descriptions of what characters are wearing anymore, so I don't know what they're wearing. The other thing they say is, I have another thing I want to see and read more of, good stories nowadays. The stories are so pretentious and mostly boring. I'm going to recommend that you, if possible, get into the indie sphere, because I know it can be daunting because there's a lot of bad self-published books out there, but there's a lot of really good ones that are doing challenging and interesting things that are not in the mainstream, and not, publishers are just gobbling up more of the same over and over and over again. If you want something different, Go indie if you at all can. I know it can be tough, like money-wise. I know that other person mentioned that they mostly get books from the library. But your library does have the advantage of having a lot of books that are maybe older and so aren't following like the big new fancy trends. So seek that out if you can. Otherwise, definitely going to recommend that you check out the indie, the self-published sphere for books that are different and not following the modern trends, if you will. It's like people who write these shitty movies, shows, and books despise the potential readers and watchers so much that they don't see them as people worth their art. Well, I mean, actually, it's not the people writing it most of the time. It is the people publishing it. It's the publishing industry that we have to blame. And it makes sense because, like, once they figure out something that is popular, they're gonna keep shoveling it down our throats until they can't make money on it anymore. That's the way it works in the publishing industry. This person says, one word, acephobia. I agree with you there, friend. I agree with you there so much. All right, I didn't think we had so many comments, but we're still going. I'm going to try to maybe talk less. This person has a very long comment, so I might summarize. They're sick of smut and everything. Yep, you've come to the right channel. Tired of the Teflon girl boss. She's self-centered, whiny, and cruel, but everyone wants her. Really? Yep. Absolutely sick and done with authors lecturing the reader and ruining the immersion in the story with politics and petty snipes. Again, I don't know what books you're reading exactly, but when the author, and include authors with long-established series and success, inserts themselves into the story in a way that is inexcusable, they know better, so they should do better. They endlessly preach to their readers. I will reread a prior work than buy anything new from them if they double down on that. Not exactly sure where you're going for with that. I mean, author self-inserts, especially ones where the author, it's a author fantasy self-insert, like a power fantasy, those can be really frustrating. Possessiveness as proof of love. Yep, we already talked about that. This person is also sick of retellings, so just gonna pat my poor retelling over here that I thought maybe had a shot because retellings were popular for a second, and I guess now everyone is over them. Poor Boots. I'm sorry, I still love you. Yeah, basically they elaborate that they're sick of like smutty retellings, which, yeah, I mean, the people on my channel are largely sick of smut. Again, this is my viewership, so of course we're getting a sampling that is like sick of the same things that I talk about being sick of on my channel. Not really a surprise there. I have found my people. Or my people have found me. I didn't find anybody. They found me. What I want to see but don't see, so I will write myself. Long-established friendships. I mean, you should check out my books, I'm just saying. Communities that may snipe at one another and gossip and cause drama, but pull together when it counts. We don't see enough of like just communities in general. I really do wish we saw more of that. Found families, extended generations of people cooperating with each other, stable committed couples, yeah. Real, including good poly groups, LGBT, etc. Yes, like any like established couples that are like doing well, we definitely need to see more of them. Real stakes with consequences, evil antagonists that are not misunderstood. We got more people begging for just like evil antagonists. They also say no politics, no preaching, and like preaching is different for everybody. What some people consider preaching is often helping somebody else feel seen. So I really hesitate to call anything preaching. Something I might find preachy might actually be someone else finally feeling like they're seen in a story. And unfortunately, art cannot be removed from politics. I hate to tell you. I hate to be the one to let you know that. But art and politics are intrinsically linked, including mine. There are ways that we can make it more or less obvious. So perhaps you would prefer the less obvious variety, or the one that agrees with you more. I'm not sure which. This person says, I'm tired of not being able to trust the hype on books. Oof, I agree. If it's popular and trendy, I probably won't like it, and that's disappointing because I want to be part of the excitement. Oh, I feel this so much. But it's usually a rehash of Sarah J. Maas style romantasy. No hate, just not for me. And I like romance and fantasy, just not that particular kind that is trending. Woof. Just like slap that on my channel because that's basically how I feel about it too. I really want to be part of the hype and I just can't. This person says, I'm on a cozy mystery kick and the cop love interest has to go. I think it's on the decline in recent years at least. That's good. We need some variety, man. It can't all be cops. It can't all be cops. Let's just, come on. This person says, smut. They're sick of smut as well. Again, you've come to the right channel. I feel like people conflate romance and sex, and it bothers me. Some people, some allosexuals, don't understand that there is a difference between romance and sexual attraction. There's a big difference between romantic attraction and sexual attraction, and people who feel both tend to think that they are comorbid, if you will. Romantic sensual scenes with vulnerability and intimacy that showcase a character's exploration and relationship development has been replaced by gross, overwritten, borderline, exploitative smash and dash. Ooh, I like that, smash and dash. This is coming from someone who is not asexual. Those romantasy writers are terrible at romance. I will say, if you haven't yet, I would definitely check out the Paladin series. Oh, I'll put it on the screen. I read the first one, and it wasn't for me, but I will say that the sex scene in it was like one of the best sex scenes that I've read in a long time. It was really well done, really realistic in the way that the characters behaved, really healthy. So like, if you would like a romance that includes sex, I think there's only one sex scene in it too, so you don't have to worry that you're going to be bombarded. Check that one out. Finally, our last comment is, if a trigger warning ruins the book for someone and is a spoiler, it annoys me so much. You should be able to enjoy a story without having to be surprised at every turn. And trigger warnings are genuinely helpful to people like me with severe trauma to avoid what we don't feel healthy reading right now. So if you really can't take spoilers, at that point, just don't put a blurb or a title, because those can be spoilers too. So yeah, I agree. A lot of people try to say that we shouldn't include trigger warnings because they'll spoil the book. But like, blurbs spoil things. And like they said, even titles and covers can spoil things. And if you're really, really worried about it and you know of yourself that you don't really have any triggers, then just don't read the trigger warnings. Like, the trigger warnings maybe aren't for you. Just skip that page. You don't need to read it. Nothing says you need to read it. People skip prologues. People skip whole chapters in books if they're not interested in reading from a certain character's point of view. There is no rule that you have to read the trigger warnings. So if they're not for you, they're not for you, and you can just skip them. That's what I say. All right. Wait. Oh, no, there's more. Oh, there's a couple more comments. Oh, no. Wow. Okay, I'm going to keep going because I'm, like, committed now. And everybody keeps telling me they like long videos. So here we go. We're going to keep going. Not necessarily a novel trope, although I have seen examples, but I hate when the main character, usually the male lead, finds out he's actually descended from demons or something, and suddenly he thinks he's an evil person, and he's gone his whole life being a run-of-the-mill asshole. And then the other lead has to comfort him and try to convince him that he's literally not evil. And the male lead is like, you can't be near me. I'm too dangerous. I'm a monster. That's a lot. But also, yeah, I kind of agree. I hate it when these guys like find out that they're like descended from evil and they think that that means that they have no choice but to be evil in their life. It's like, calm down, Chad. Make decisions for yourself. When I do see this trope in a romantic context, there's almost always a second love interest, so the female lead grieves for the missing male lead by spending time getting closer with the secondary love interest. Yuck. Hate. It's stupid. This person says when the love interest is either straight up called hot by the narrative or there's too much time spent describing their physical features in order to make them look hot. The former I hate because let me make up my own mind instead of the word of God declaring them attractive. The latter because we don't need a billion paragraphs dedicated to how impressive the abs, rack, etc. are. Once is enough. I get it. Please write some actual character building. Yep. I am right there with you. That gets old pretty fast. This person says, when Loki, the Norse god, is portrayed as a man in retellings. Very specific, but also I agree. They are gender fluid in the actual mythology. Their whole shtick is fluidity. They literally give birth in one of the myths. Yet, the only piece of media that I know that has portrayed Loki as even vaguely genderqueer is the Magnus Chase series. I blame Marvel for this. Yeah, I'm living for an eventual like mainstream portrayal of Loki as the genderqueer that they are supposed to be, but we may never see it. Next we have, might be in the minority, but I don't like when rich characters in books are hated on just because they're rich. The eat the rich mentality, if you will. I'm the eat the corrupt mentality. See, here's the thing. There's a lot of crossover between wealth and corruption. It's easy to walk all over somebody when you can just pay them off or pay somebody else to silence them or just pay your way out of any consequences. In Adventurer Mage, the people in power have used wealth to crush the little guy. And also that is both literal and metaphorical in this book. So I'm eat the rich in that way.
To be clear, I, as a character writer, cannot prevent myself from making even my villains in these types of scenarios whole people with their own problems. However, within that, I also recognize what wealth does to people, especially generational wealth, and like how these people are sort of willingly trapping themselves in this cage of privilege, and it's interesting to explore. But also I am 100% there for any books that, you know, want to have the rich as the villains, because it's so easy to do. It feels so natural.
Rich people having a ball now. Rich people just fucking us all.
Finally, another comment that I kind of disagree with. That's exciting, everyone, right? Obviously not perfect, but have flaws like everyone else, and said characters just have to sit there while the poor people crap talk them and act like they don't have any real problems since they're rich. I mean, a lot of their problems can be solved because they're rich. This is coming from a really poor person in real life. I am by no means rich. This just means that the authors are counting those kinds of people as instantly evil just because they're rich. If they're a bad person, then by all means, but they're not bad just because they have money or in a high position. You know, I mean, not for me. Again, I also grew up very poor, so take that into account if you don't think my opinion matters because I'm a filthy poor. I am coming from America, so that's a viewpoint. We have a real wealth worship problem in the United States where we equate wealth with inherent value as a person. That's a whole thing. I'm not gonna, I might cut a lot of this out. I'm not gonna go on a big tirade about it, but you know, I gotta disagree with a comment every now and then, or else it, you know, seems a little bit too easy here on this channel. Okay, I think this is really the last comment, for real this time. Can I just put forth a general tiredness for tropes in general? Tropes used to be somewhat of a natural byproduct of the genre conflict you were writing, not something you planned and marketed your book with. Maybe I'd be less peeved if the books coming out weren't so bad. So yeah, we are entering an age where people are deciding what tropes they want to have in their book, and then writing those tropes, whether they fit or not, whether they work or not, whether they flow or not, instead of writing the book and then being like, oh, look, it has those tropes in it. Cool. And then I'll market it using that. That was actually the last comment. This video is super long, longer than I intended it to be. I've been sitting here filming for ages. I hope that I haven't pissed anyone off too much with my opinions. Obviously, I'm just a lady with a YouTube channel. I am not the arbiter of all things right and correct, so you don't have to listen to me. That's the best part. Whether you want to come back and listen to more of my videos or whether you've decided you've had enough and you're out the door. Either way, I hope the best for you out there in the world, and I hope you find books that you can enjoy. And I definitely recommend, if you're not seeing what you like in the mainstream, that you check out the indie side of things if you are able. But obviously, if you liked what you heard and aren't too angry with me, you can find me on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get exclusive videos not seen here on the regular channel. That's pretty exciting, right? I also have now channel memberships, so you can get to see those same videos here on the YouTube channel as well if you're a channel member. So if you're like, I don't want to deal with Patreon, but I do want to see those videos, channel memberships are here for you. And also, I am a developmental editor, and if you couldn't guess, I am an LGBTQ+ friendly developmental editor, so if you've got a queer book and you've been nervous to hand it off to somebody for developmental editing, I might be the one for you. And I would love to see it, especially if your book is not like super hyper mainstream, or even if it is, that's fine too. I will not hold it against your book. Anyway, and that's all of my spiel for today. I will see some of you, at least, who aren't too enraged with me to stop watching again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
You have the anger of a much taller woman.
Oh, I am angry, Jarl. I'm 7 feet tall angry.
Don't worry, though. My anger is only aimed at bad books, not at my beloved patrons. Patrons like Jennifer, Nemo, Tactical Hot Dog, Haley History Nerd, Stephanie, Pixelizzy, Raya, Christina, Cameron, Lady Kragan, Jose, Lunar Muse, AJ, Marshy, Semi-Dark, GK, Scout, K, Annika, Jen, Gay Tutter, Tina, Laknunga, SB Boots, Martha Baggins, July, Bird Anonymous, Sarah, Kat, 78 Kilograms of Shade, Veda, Roma, Pansing Pony, Haley, Sam, Kira, Kohikaro, Mooney, Puttamancer, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, Jessica, KJ, Lafone, Mufflier, Celia, Alyssa, Deborah, Afra, Swamp Goblin, Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Vampire Antihero, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, and Lisa. The year's almost over, and I can't believe that I have even more amazing patrons. Hello to all of the new patrons, but special shout out to all of the longtime patrons who have been here for the long haul. All of you are MVPs, and I hope you're enjoying your time here in my Patreon.
Rich people, they're having a ball. Rich people been fucking us all.